So, welcome to the RecWired Podcast. Today's guest is Beth Palfery-Smith from Workwell International, powered by Six Cats. So, I guess that's the breaking news. Six Cats is now Workwell International.
Yeah, we've merged two powerhouses into one.
Fantastic. So, I was at the launch party the other day. Good fun had by all.
Yeah, it was lovely to get out and see everyone, actually, have everyone come together and be there with clients and get to sort of celebrate this moment and make some key announcements. And especially the branding and everything, obviously. So it's always been a strong brand and a strong logo in terms of Six Cats. So I think the way that we're moving forward is just like having all these capabilities, but still having the same face on it, essentially.
Yeah, because Six Cats has got such a big brand to it. You don't want to just lose that brand equity, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that the core of what we do is always going to be, having a focus on compliance and understanding those tax solutions in country. But I think with what's added with Workwell International is really building out that EOR capability. And then, the locations on offer now are just so exciting. The tech capabilities coming, there is just so much change happening. It's all really positive. So really excited about it.
We'll get to that in a little bit. But first off, you've got a really famous surname, very famous in the recruitment industry. So for those who don't know, you've got a very famous father.
Yes. Should we address the Palfery-Smith in the room? My dad, Graham Palfery-Smith, has a history and a name in the recruitment industry. So kind of accidentally, I've ended up adjacent to recruitment a little bit on and off throughout my career. And then now I've ended up at Workwell International, powered by Six Cats. And yeah, that was a fun journey.
Did you think it was always unavoidable that you'd end up in the industry?
I didn't think I would, to be honest. I'm a bit of a generalist, so I've jumped around a bit. I traveled throughout the years. I've studied, different subjects, and I kind of just follow my instinct wherever I'm going. And I would never have, because obviously Michelle built Six Cats, and I didn't really understand what they did. I used to be having dinner with Michelle, and she'd tell me about work, and I'd be like, yeah, all right. No idea. So it was a whole different story when I was then job hunting, because I was looking to leave my previous role, which had nothing to do with anything in this industry. I used to be a bookshop manager. But I was going back to studying. I wanted something sort of part-time. I thought account management would be a really good way to step out of retail management. I'm always looking for kind of ways to enhance or change, within what I'm doing. And my partner actually had sort of called to me from the room over and said to me, have you seen this advert Michelle's put up for Six Cats for an account manager? And I went, no, why would I? Okay. And I read it, and it sounded exactly like me. And I was like, damn, I can't ask Michelle for a job. I can't ask Michelle. That's ridiculous. Anyway, a few more weeks of job hunting went by, and it was kind of still there in the back of my mind. And I thought, I think I'm going to have to do it. I'm going to have to explore it. I mean, it looked custom made almost, So so I called Michelle and Dad, and I had the conversation, and she went, I've been waiting for this call for 4 years, Beth. Where you been? Which I thought was very, very on brand and very funny, and contextualized a lot of previous conversations we'd had actually around sort of sales and account management and business development and things like that. And I sort of accidentally, adjacently followed in a vaguely Palfery-Smith direction. And ended up at Six Cats. So I interviewed with Steph and Amy, obviously not Michelle or anyone, because it's not the one-to-one contact that you're having every day. And it went really well. And I started off part-time, and I was studying as well. They were really supportive of that, and that finished up in October. But basically, as it went, I just added more and more hours on every week because I was getting so involved in what was happening. And then I went full-time, and people would say to me, oh, I didn't even realize you were part-time. So that was really positive.
So for those who haven't met Michelle, who founded Six Cats, how would you best describe her?
Oh, Michelle is totally like transparent. She's just herself. She's really authentic. She's an absolute powerhouse. She's very intelligent. And I think she was essentially just a bit of a visionary in this industry and kind of knew what she wanted, knew how to make it happen. Yeah, built something really, really good. And the company culture that followed Michelle, I mean, it was the first place I ever worked at, really, that I looked around and went, oh my God, I get it. I can see the values in everyone here. I can, the company culture is so clear. My partner actually said at a party once, a Six Cats summer party, he went, within 20 seconds, I know whether or not I'm talking to a Six Cats person or a partner of a Six Cats person. Like, it was that clear. And I think that all came from Michelle.
Yeah, I first started working with her at previous employment, and yeah, she was just a bundle of energy. And as a supplier, absolutely great. Always just made things happen. Always on the right side of compliance, and also used to have some cracking events as well.
Yeah, it's like the all-rounder, isn't it? I don't think tax and compliance really sounds that sexy, and then actually when you have an incredible supplier who cares and they have fun, it becomes a lot more colourful, which is, I think, why the branding was so important and so fitting, really, and why it's being held onto.
So obviously a bit of a period of change, and you've probably seen it more coming in 2.5 years ago. So obviously acquired by Workwell probably just over a year and a bit ago. So what are the changes you've seen, really?
Well, I think Workwell took over, I think it was January a couple of years ago.
Okay.
And so obviously from a base level, like boots on the ground approach, the information comes through differently than, the kind of official dates. It wasn't like Workwell took over and everyone went, oh my God, everything's changing, everything's happening. It was like, oh, okay, this is happening now and this will lead to other stuff and we'll get there when we get there. My own sort of role in the company, I started off 360. So I was doing contractor calls and the agency side of things, so doing the account management, and then I moved into an account manager role, and then I've moved into a business development manager role now, so that's my title now. And in that time, I would say, with what's happening with Workwell, a lot of it is essentially kicked off in the last sort of 6 months or so, in terms of just seeing the capability of having a company like that invest in what Six Cats is or was, and then what it's going to be. So I think that the changes that are in progress or coming already have been really exciting, but I think it's keeping hold of who we are already, really, and all the people who are there currently. That's what's happening.
Yeah, because acquisitions can go one of two ways. They can either really kill that culture, or they can really put the growth of that great culture on steroids and really take it to the next level.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And I think that, everyone, when they think, oh God, we're being acquired, there's always going to be that element of, oh, I'm not sure. But that's where your business leaders step in and they've got your back and they're looking after everyone and understanding that and managing the change and everything. And I think that, nothing ever stays the same. Like, especially if you're a salesperson, you can't be wedded to the way things are. You have to be wedded to the future. Like, you have to be excited for change and adaptable. And it's one of our core values is adapting and embracing change. So the people at Six Cats already there, it's just about maintaining what's already good and then also what can be brought on that can make it better.
Fantastic. So the launch event, 3 key things that changed. So let's go through them one by one. So the name, Workwell International, powered by Six Cats.
Yes, the name. So I think pretty standard, Workwell Group taking over, and they need to have their name on that. And Workwell International makes perfect sense. But ultimately, powered by Six Cats it's just kind of, it's as transparent as we are. It's doing what it says on the tin. This is Workwell International now, but the whole team that is building from this and now we're building out is Six Cats based. That's the building blocks. So it really is powered by our approach to things, which is really exciting. So it's nice to still have our cat here. Other side.
Fair enough. So The other point was, though, in line with this as well, you've launched a piece of new technology.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got it's on the way. So as with anything technological, there'll be beta testing and moving forward with that. But yeah, there will be a portal which will streamline onboarding massively. So we've always had a focus on customer service and that relationship. As you know, in your experience, like relationships are everything, and this is a way to complement the relationship there by just adding in that technological capability. So agencies or clients will be able to just click and say, right, here's my referral, and then follow that process all the way through to, seeing that contract go out, basically.
So effectively showing them on the journey. So if you're worried about as a contractor sign up, you'll be able to literally go on and see where they're on the process as opposed to having to call in or.
Exactly. It's very sort of a practical way to improve communications, because it's always that, like you said, email being sent across, where are we at, which part of the process, have you spoken to the worker, have you sent the have they sent their documents, have they signed their contract? All of that will just be visible, which will make it so much quicker and easier for everyone.
I think it's like the Amazonization of it. So I've done my order, we've picked your order, we've sent your order, we've posted your order, your order's there type. Yeah. And you just never in any doubt that it's going to arrive.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's just and also it's where the world is going anyway. Nothing will ever replace relationships, but you can improve upon process always, and efficiency is king always. So being able to just click a button and go, oh, hang on a minute, yeah, the worker's got his contract, we're just waiting for them to sign it. That's it.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, I mean, taking out that friction and that's one of those great things that works for everyone. It makes you guys more efficient, so you can spend more time with your customers. It makes it easier for the contractor because it's a time of when they want, when they're choosing, and for agencies as well, just gives that visibility so they can actually focus on the bits that matter, the exceptions, not just everything else.
And also, I mean, from your experience, you'll know as well that sometimes that requirement is like, we need it yesterday. And so the chasing portion of onboarding a worker internationally, the back and forth between different parties, it just eliminates so many emails and calls, really.
I think my experience was generally someone phoning me up to say we've placed a contractor somewhere in a country I'd never heard of, and they need to start tomorrow. And what's the rules around this? And that was the experience. So
sounds familiar.
Do you still get those crazy requests?
Absolutely. Crazier the better, really. When people call me up and they say, oh, I've got a weird one for you, I'm like, try me. I've been here 2.5 years now. I've heard a lot.
I don't want to get derailed because we've got to talk about the third thing, but I will ask you again, what's the craziest request? So the third announcement came courtesy of some entertainment, but US expansion going.
Yeah.
And you've previously not done the US before.
Well, we have done the US, but we haven't done it ourselves.
Okay.
If that makes sense. So we've done it previously. The way that we work is we have in-house capabilities and we have external capabilities. So that contractual chain and that network of partners allows us to do EOR, employment solutions, outsourced employment, however you want to call it, globally. Over 80 countries we're looking at. So our own entities now, we're looking at 17 entities across Europe, I think it is. And then in addition to that, the US. So that was, the big shiny announcement. Elvis was in the building quite literally for the announcement of the US. So we've built a solution out which is hopefully as simple as possible in a very busy and what can be a complicated market in terms of employing workers, and contract or permanent, which is really, really exciting.
So for those who probably looking at the US as an opportunity, it looks big and scary, but it's 7 times the size of the UK market. So the opportunities are boundless. Yeah,
exactly. And I think with America, it's a bit like, because each state has their own legislation and different costings and things like that. The way of approaching it is what is the simplest way to engage? Because speed is always of the essence and compliance is of the essence. So how do you wrap all of that up and offer something and go, we are going to take care of so much of this for you? Our approach is always very consultative. Part of what we do is, it's not the same as, everyone knows like a UK umbrella style model where everyone knows how it works, what it does, and then you tick the boxes on that one and you move forward. Every single country changes, sometimes year by year. So we use the terminology case-by-case basis a lot. We have a case-by-case swear jar, which pays for our nights out. We have to, because the situation is always determined by what the client needs and what the local legislation is and which worker you're looking at. There's a lot of moving parts. So so the US is a massive, massive market. And we're really excited to be able to offer in all 50 states.
Are you starting in all 50 states?
Yep.
Okay, wow.
So, do you mean to go on?
Yeah, I mean, I think you said it. I mean, there is complete. The States is one of these things that it's probably not as scary as it sounds, but actually, if you get it wrong, it is scary. And I think there's probably a higher barrier to getting it right. But if you get it right, you've got that moat around you. So I think it's very interesting. You've obviously taken your time. You've got your solution ready. You've launched, and I guess you've got an existing customer base, which is very addressable now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the US is somewhere that we get asked about all the time. And it's a market a lot of agencies, particularly, or clients, it's such a central point of our globe, really. And when you have capabilities worldwide, it's a question that comes up a lot. Can you do the US? Can you navigate that? Can you navigate that territory for us? Can you help us navigate it? And now the answer is yes. Whereas previously we might have had to outsource that, and that's that slight extra step in there in terms of communications. Now it's that capabilities in-house. So that's a really, really positive, it's a massive positive for us.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point. So, a lot of companies say, yeah, we do everywhere. And then when it's through partners, sometimes you do lose that communication line, that accountability line, actually. So the fact that you're doing it there is it probably would make a huge difference to your customers. So the other thing you said is interesting as well. So obviously you have this peg, most people just think of contractors sort of power by the hour, pay by the hour, but you said you can employ permanent staff there now under an EOR model.
Yeah.
So do you want
absolutely.
to, because I think a lot of people get confused by AOR, EOR, payroll, W2s, all the nice buzz terminology. But could you just explain EOR in very much layman's terms?
Yeah, absolutely. So EOR is employment. EOR means the worker is under an employment contract in that country. So EOR stands for employer of record.
Okay.
So what we're doing is we're saying that we can be, either our own entity or via a local network or whatever. That worker will have an employment contract. They'll get a net pay and a pay slip and all of the local terms and conditions that come with that employment and navigating that. That's what we can help you do. So where we can move the liability down the chain and engage and make people aware of things. I mean, if you had a worker in, like the US or wherever else, Singapore or Belgium, and you need somebody there, it looks completely different in every single country how you can engage those workers. So AOR is engaging with freelancers, contractors, B2B style contracts, accountancy services, things like that. That's still really popular, but the uplift in EOR need is so potent at the moment. So many clients and agencies are looking and they're going, no, we want them to be employed. So the simplest way to say it is it's just employing someone somewhere where you don't have an entity.
Yeah, and so, sort of use cases for that would be firms who don't have a presence in that country who want to employ maybe a remote worker or something like that, or, they're not planning to be there. Yeah.
You've got, I was chatting with somebody yesterday and I was explaining, they were saying, we're starting up a contracts desk and we'll get back in touch and everything. And I said, okay, yeah, but you do know we do EOR as well. And, say you've got a Romanian like dual national who wants to go home and wants to work remotely in Romania, but they want to carry on with the relationship they have with their client and with their agency already. We can facilitate that. We can run outsourced employees in other countries. And she went, "You will never believe the query I had last week." I went, "What?" And she went, "It was a Romanian national who wanted to move home, who wanted to be employed." So that's a really good example of where we can facilitate and we can step in and go, we can make sure this contract runs correctly for you. And that worker can continue to work for the same client under the same role. And there's no risk of misclassification or deemed employment or anything like that. All of the local legislation is covered for. But then obviously the other way around in the chain is the client saying, "Look, I've got a role and I want someone to fill it." And then the person that's found happens to be based in, let's say, the US. And they're like, "We're not building out the US market at the moment. We're not interested in that. We just want this particular person to do this work." And they can do it remotely. We go, "Okay, great. We can offer that." So in the US particularly, it's quite a good example of somewhere where you're running what's called a W-2 contract, which is another word basically for employment. And within the W-2 structure, you've got contract style, as in hourly paid, hourly rate workers who are who come and go on fixed term assignments. And you've got outsourced employees or permanent style employees, which are being paid via our US entity on behalf of a client out there. So yeah, it opens up a lot of queries, questions, a lot of scenarios and everything. It basically opens the world for people.
So as recruitment consultants and recruitment agency owners, this is something that potentially, in the world of scarceness of candidates, they can work with you to say, "Look, you can take a remote worker who not necessarily in the, and we can employ them compliantly, effectively as if they were your employee, and someone else just manages all of the risk, and you don't need to do it, but you can get access to talent that you might not necessarily have been able to get access to."
Yeah, absolutely. And I think where we've seen the markets be so volatile in the last year, particularly, and obviously globally, but also in the UK, I think my favorite conversations, I love talking to agencies and recruitment leaders, and they go, "Hang on a minute, wait, there's this whole, talk about the world being your oyster, but there is a whole wealth of talent, especially post-pandemic, where loads of people had to move home. Maybe they were working abroad and they suddenly went, "No, I need to be with my family." And they upped and went back to their countries. Like, if you can continue those, providing a solution, then everyone wins.
Yeah, it sounds a bit familiar and a bit close to home, that actually. Yeah. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's interesting to talk about the state of the market, because conversations I've had at the start of this year, people generally strong Q4 was probably the strongest for most people. A lot of, if you're talking to people who've got businesses in the States, they're quite positive about it. I don't think anyone's going out and ordering a yacht this year, but people feel pretty good, probably stronger on contracts, permanent, a little bit of weak data earlier this week. But what's your take? What's hot? What's not?
Well, as mentioned, EOR is definitely on the rise. So I think contract is, you can run contractors via an EOR model, or you can run them via an AOR model. So I think where people, it's just about budgets, it's about need, it's about local legislation. I think in terms of the market, because where we sit in the chain, we're so dependent on what's coming down that chain. So the market trends that we follow is whatever's happening with the recruitment agencies and where their clients want people, that's where we place people, because we're dependent on that need. There are some countries that are always strong. I mean, Europe is our bread and butter. Spain is always really big. Germany is always a massive market. But then, last year there was 6 months where suddenly it was Saudi. And every query that came through was for Saudi or surrounding territories, and you're going, or UAE, and you're going, "Oh, hang on a minute, let me switch my Europe brain off, and now I'm dealing with this in front of me." But that's also what makes it so exciting, because what comes through is different. But we're busy when everyone else is busy, really, and it's just keeping up those conversations really about what's happening and ear to the ground, and how is it for everyone? And from my understanding, it was a very make or break year last year for a lot of recruitment companies, particularly coming out of a buoyant market.
Yeah, I think typically what happens in recruitment, recruiters almost follow each other quite quickly. So if someone starts hiring, then they start hiring. If someone starts laying off, they lay off. And actually, there's probably a little bit to be said of just following your own data, following your own experience, just, and not watching everyone else, because markets gets hot, and the challenge is to get into them quickly and exit them, when they're not as buoyant. So I think the other thing I would say actually that's super important is a lot of the work that I think Six Cats did really well for, certainly when I worked with you, was that we were able to forward plan. We would talk about big projects coming up and we would understand. So we could go and pitch the client knowing what our rate would be, what our margin would be. And what actually really, I'd always recommend to people is being proactive with suppliers such as yourself. So the time to contact you is not when you've got someone starting Monday. The time to contact you is 3 months before, when you're looking at the project. And potentially what the risks are, what you've got to do, visas, taxes, legislation, generally that type of thing.
Yeah, absolutely, completely agree. And I think, the fun of it is that we get both. We get, this person's starting Monday, and we get, or even this person started yesterday. You're like, which country are they in? Can we help? But the proactive piece is great. And I think the great thing about what we do is that we speak to people, we speak to business leaders, we speak to compliance managers, we speak to recruitment consultants who, it's their first ever international placement. We speak to people across businesses, HR managers, things like that. And so it's always interesting to see who's being proactive and who's saying, right, I know that there's going to be capability, like we're going to want to start up an international contract desk, or actually we're going to want to be able to offer to our clients international, EOR. We need a partner for that. What does that look like? Who do we trust? How can we build that out now? What are the costings? What's a general idea of it? So proactive is my favorite place to be. And I think project wise, it's so helpful to sort of start to build up a picture of what that project's going to look like. When someone comes to you and says, look, my client's got 70 countries, what can you do? Great. But if you write all that information down 6 months later, we might have more capability, which is what's happened to me in the last 6 months. You write it all down and then they come back and they go, oh, okay. And you just mentioned that, what, is Croatia available? I'm like, yep, Croatia's available now. EOR, Croatia, we can do it. Keep them coming. And so it's a really exciting bit to be both proactive and reactive, I would say, with this.
Fantastic.
Helpful always with recruitment agencies, especially to have that proactive bit.
I think what you do is just make it easy to do business in places that are probably offer better market opportunity, and that's generally worth quite a bit to recruitment agencies. So what's the funkiest request you've ever had?
The funkiest request, I think when you get, like I said, there's been a lot of Saudi. There's been a lot of, we had a German national in the Philippines recently on a tourist visa. Very complicated. Curveballs and all. But, project-wise as well, we've got countries where we're running, tens if not hundreds of workers sometimes. So there's always going to be a funky one in there. No, my favorite is when people say, oh, I don't know what we're going to do about this. We've got a Romanian national in Germany. What are we going to do? And I'm like, that is easy. It's Germany, so there's still a lot to talk about, but that's not that funky. It's when you've got the multiple layers, or they're part-time, but they're only doing this many hours a week. And then you've got this kind of situation, and what kind of setup do they have? And it's so changeable. That it's all a bit of a blur, to be honest. It's lovely to just, when I get the emails pop up, or I run back through my notes and I go, oh, hang on a minute, that was a really interesting one. Let's follow up on that again and find out what happened. We get all sorts.
Does Brexit change much for you guys?
I would say it's difficult because when I joined the business, it was essentially post-Brexit. So my understanding has always been if you're running an EU contract, with the workers or the role is physically in the EU, because obviously the need can come from different places. The need can come from the client's location. The need can come from the role. The need can come from where the worker is. And I've just talked myself around forgetting what I was answering in the question, which was
Brexit.
Brexit, yes. So, EU nationals in the EU is the simplest way to do it.
Yeah.
We still get requests now of people saying, I want a Brit to go to Netherlands or Denmark or wherever, but then you get yourself into visa territory. Ultimately, if a worker's already got right to work in a country, it's always going to take a massive step out of that process because visa capability is completely dependent on which entity you're looking at. So any EOR solution you're looking at is more likely to have visa capability, but no AOR solution is going to be, there's going to be that capability there. So you get into a whole other spectrum. And so Brexit kind of, I think, separated the UK in terms of that freedom of movement, really, to be able to just go and work wherever, which, as we know, sometimes contractors do say, they're like, oh, it's fine, I'll just go here for this many days. And that's when we go, no.
It's not quite.
Yeah, you should probably be checking the right to work first and foremost. But in terms of the wider implications of Brexit and the markets and things like that, I think from my understanding, it was predicted to cause a massive issue, and actually it caused an uplift in what we do because suddenly the focus went international rather than just on the UK.
Wow. Good to know and good to hear. So what does the year ahead hold for Workwell? What will a good year for Workwell International look like?
I think just really embedding the changes that have now we've been lucky enough to announce. So I think that, hitting the ground running with that US capability will be really exciting. Growing out in a new market like that is always exciting. And other than that, just essentially streamlining what's there. So I think that a good year for us is just going to be, not necessarily waiting for the market to become better, although I think it sort of slowly is, but adapting to what's there and finding the business that is there. And if that's the EOR, then amazing. We've got all this capability to assist with that. So I think that the scope is massive. So it's just kind of the excitement of seeing what's going to come up next.
Fantastic. So if people want to find out about all the capabilities or just want to talk to you, want to be proactive or just throw some random difficult ones at you, how can they get hold of you, Beth?
So I am, we just had our email addresses change. So I think beth.palfery-smith at workwell-international.com, which is a little long. So probably just look for me on LinkedIn as well. And all my contact details are all across my profile. So we'll do a link and hopefully post this and be lovely to drop a message. And
we'll put this in the comments because it did take 30 seconds to read out your email. So we'll make sure it's just easy to.
Yeah, the surname, the well-versed surname is it's one that is misspelt so regularly that I would just encourage you maybe just pick up the phone and give me a call. I'll put my number in there.
Fantastic. Beth, thanks so much for coming on. I know that it's exciting times at Workwell International, and I know that Steph was really keen that you come on and tell us that story. So that's great. And we'll catch up later in the year and find out how your journey to the US has been.
Yeah, absolutely. Really exciting. Thank you so much for having me and for having Workwell International, powered by 6Cat, on for the call. It's been great to chat.
Brilliant. Thanks, Beth. Take care.
Thank you.